It's the morning of the 12th of April 1961, and Major Yuri Gagarin broadcast this message from Earth orbit.
Major Gagarin said that the flight was going on successfully, normal, visibility was good, and that he himself was feeling good as well.
Half an hour ago, the Russians announced that they'd put the first man into space. An announcement broadcast from Moscow radio in English said the world's first spaceship, Vostok, with a man on board, had been launched today on a round-the-Earth orbit. The first space navigator is Major Yuri Gagarin.
When news broke that a Soviet man was flying in space, his 14-year-old niece, Tamara Filatova, was shocked to hear that man was her uncle.
I remember that day. I was at school and our teacher suddenly said, "Tamara, your uncle is a pilot, right?" "Yes," I said. "Yuri Gagarin?" "Yes." "Well, do you know that he's in space?" And at that time, although satellites have already been sent into orbit and animals flew and came back alive, space was still seen as something very scary, very dangerous. So I was worried sick for him, for someone I cared for deeply.
Soviet secrecy meant that even other trainee cosmonauts didn't know Gagarin had been chosen for the mission until he was in space. Alexei Leonov met Gagarin in 1959 when he was called for medical tests to select pilots for a new secret program. As Alexei arrived, the previous candidate was leaving.
I remember face of Yuri Gagarin, very Russian face with very big blue eyes. He talked to me about my life. I asked about his life. 30 minutes after, I knew all about Yuri Gagarin.
Both men won places in the first cosmonaut training corps. There'd been guinea pigs, mice, dogs, and even reptiles in space. But Chief Engineer Sergei Korolyov revealed that one of them was next.
He said that next year we must fly in space. Therefore, you must work like beaver every day. You must have very difficult training session. But in the beginning of 1961, can fly only one man. During this meeting, Sergei Korolyov talked to Yuri Gagarin much more than with another cosmonaut. After finish our meeting, I said, "Yuri, in my opinion, you have very big chance to be first cosmonaut." Yuri Gagarin said to me, "No, Alexei, it is not possible."
As the mission approached, the possibility grew into certainty. 4 days before launch, a state commission voted unanimously for the 27-year-old Air Force Lieutenant Yuri Gagarin, the handsome country boy with a wide smile, who crucially was short enough to fit into the cramped capsule. Early on the 12th of April at Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, he was helped into his outfit: body sensors, a pressure suit, and bright orange overalls with a white helmet. In a farewell speech given a few days earlier, he addressed the people of the Soviet Union.
"At this instant, the whole of my life seems to be condensed into one wonderful moment. In all times and epochs, the greatest happiness of man has been to take part in new discoveries, to be the first to enter the cosmos, to engage, single-handed, in an unprecedented duel with nature. Could one dream of anything more?"
At 9:07 local time, the huge white rocket rose from the ground, breaking the sound barrier as it sped into the sky. The Vostok 1 mission orbited the Earth once, taking 108 minutes. The spectacular news flew round the world even faster.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. All Moscow is waiting to give a hero's welcome to the world's first spaceman, Major Gagarin of the Soviet Air Force. As he looked down on the Earth from the loneliness of space, he streaked across Asia, Africa, and South America, constantly checking his instruments and controlling the pitch and roll of the ship by firing small correcting rockets. During his flight, his reactions were checked by radio and television devices. When he got down, Major Gagarin said in a message to Mr. Khrushchev, "The landing was normal. I feel well. I have no injuries or bruises."
which is remarkable given that the capsule failed to separate from its support module, sending it spinning at a sickening rate. He ejected at high altitude and landed by parachute in a field near the town of Engels in southern Russia. The scene was witnessed by a cow, a woman and a young girl. "Have you come from outer space?" the woman asked. "Yes," replied Yuri. "Don't be alarmed, I am Soviet." Back on Earth, Gagarin described his experience.
Once I was in orbit, and once the cabin of the spaceship had separated from the last stage of the carrier rocket, I found myself in the condition of weightlessness. I was accustomed to this condition a bit, thanks to the preliminary tests, but nevertheless it was a new sensation.
Nikolai Tolyarenko was a student at the Moscow Aviation Institute and remembers the day well. Classes had come to a standstill and excited students turned the radio up full blast. A man had gone into space for the first time, and that man was Soviet.
It was a so beautiful moment. We jumped, we heard it on a radio set. And so many students were completely shocked, and we began to celebrate. At first we were running around the room, and after that we stopped our classes. And with the informal permission of administration of our institute, we moved to Red Square. We stopped about 100 meters from Red Square because the density of population was so high that it's impossible even to open banner. In that time in Moscow we had 5 million of population, now it's 11. My impression, it was half of Moscow.
So the spontaneous gathering of people jammed the whole centre of Moscow, about at least 1 million people.
Yes, and it was a very good mood. Very good, you see. Yes, we did it. Yes, we did it.
But the mission was more than just a technological achievement. It was a huge political statement at the time of the Cold War. The Americans had been telling the world about their plans to put a man in space, but the Soviets had worked in secret and overtaken them in public. As the first American in orbit, almost a year later, John Glenn said, "They just beat the pants off us."
In that time it was very important to receive some indication, are we still recognized in the world? Do we have enough technology? And in that case, space arena was a good indicator. A very famous singer in Russia and poetry, Mr. Vysotsky, and in one of his very famous songs, he mentioned, we are very proud because in a ballet and space area we're first one.
And as for Yuri Gagarin, he became a national idol who travelled the world as an ambassador for science, adventure and Soviet success.
He was person number one, much more popular than our prime minister. You see, idol should be handsome and it should be charismatic. Gagarin was a charismatic. And his smile, you see, was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Practically all world very soon recognized him. He was symbol not of Soviet Union later. He was a symbol of a world.
Nikolai Tolyarenko ending witness from Richard Hollingham.